Welcome back to Post Projects and my RX8 budget drift build. This is going to be just a quick little catch up as to what I've done with this car in the past, about a year and a half since I bought it and fixed it up, which the first two videos was me just fixing up the smashed front. I really like the RX8. It's a nice car. It's a fairly nice interior. It handles pretty good. I wasn't always a big fan of the look. That's probably influenced just by other people's opinions, but it's really grown on me, and I really like the look of it. There's a lot of, if you do it right, you can make them look really sharp too. They definitely look a lot better lowered, which this one is now. I'll get into that in a second. And some tasteful mods and they can look great, which I haven't done yet. The main thing is I want to learn how to drift. That's why I bought this. I don't want to make the car look good until I can actually do something good with it. It looks like shit. People won't be surprised that I drive like shit. So, shortly after fixing the video, over a year ago now, I made it to Castrol Raceway here in Edmonton for my first drift practice. No clue what I was doing. Decided to go last minute. Wasn't able to get anyone to film anything. I did film a little bit of footage in cab, which I'll show now. I had no real idea of how to initiate drift. I didn't go to a parking lot and practice first. Hadn't done donuts in years, like 15 years ago with my 240SX. Never done a clutch kick before, so I tried a few different things that day. I tried, just pulling the old e-brake, the clutch kicks, trying to flick it. I really struggled with I'd either get too much angle and then spin out, or not enough angle and it would straighten up. Like I couldn't find a good balance. I got a little bit coming out of the slow stuff. That was easier, but any of the high-speed stuff, I couldn't get it all. Now, obviously, I could have done a whole lot better if I just practiced with the completely stock setup. However, this was late September 2018. And there was just no more practices left. Winter comes fairly early up here, and that was it. So I decided to do some modifications. Reading online, guys had said that the diff, there was some trouble guys had drifting the RX8, that the diff doesn't always lock up. So, and also in that video, I don't know if it showed in that video, but when I would fully rotate, like when I would spin out, there was a loud thunk, like just a cringeworthy thunk. And it happened almost every time. So I did a little looking up, and I also had a little bit of wheel hop when I was just, dumping the clutch and taking off and spinning the tires on the street. So the diff bushing's pretty common, so I picked up some diff bushings. I got the poly ones, no, maybe they're the Durlin ones. Anyway, there's a lot of work to drop the diff out of these. So I figured since I'm dropping the diff and putting the bushings, why not weld the diff? So I did weld the diff. Probably could have taken some better pictures of it. I think if you're going to weld the diff, you'd probably have an easier time if you bought one with the automatic rear end. It doesn't have the limited slip in it. But anyway, I got it welded. It's been holding up. Driving a car with a welded diff is different. So it definitely easier to break the tires loose. Certainly more consistent for drifting. Great for drifting, but when you pull into parking lots and you really cringe when you got to turn tight and it just kind of chirps and clunks, and people look at you like you're about to lose a wheel. Um, it's different. I don't think I do it on a daily, but this is just a toy, so I don't really care. Um, it depends on your budget. I bought this car for $2,500, a limited slip. This is at least $1,000. Like to me, it just wasn't worth putting that money into it. What else have I done? When I was at Castrol the first time, I realized that I couldn't actually wear a helmet and without having to open the sunroof and put my head into the pocket of with the helmet on. So I picked up this seat. This is a NRG seat, same seats that's in the 818. Oh, except those are carbon and they're black. So if I take the seat cushion off of this, I got good room. It's a fixed seat. It doesn't recline. I couldn't fit it on rails. I'm a big dude. I'm a big dude, and I'm a big dude. So, and it's a small car, so I had to make it work. Also, I don't like, at least for my body, I didn't like the steering wheel to pedal. For me to have a comfortable distance from the pedal, the steering wheel was too far away. So I used the NRG adapter. I got a cheap quick release hub and a deep dish NRG wheel, and that's a 315 millimeter. And I am a big fan of just the positioning now of where my pedals are. When I'm all the way back, your wrists just lay over that. It's perfect. I also installed some teen coilovers. Teen, not sure. They're decent. I don't have really anything to compare them to. It certainly feels stiffer than stock. It's a little bit lower. I also got some Phase 2 Motor Trend rear suspension arms, so that when the car's lower, I can still get like zero camber in the back, which is ideal for drifting. In the front, I got them to give me as much negative camber as possible with the stock setup, and I think it's around 3 degrees. I forget what my toe out was set at, and obviously I wanted as much caster as I could in the front. In the front, I also modified the stock knuckles, and I used a Phase 2 Motor Trend tie rod ends. I modified the knuckles to give me more angle, which it gave me quite a bit more. I should have done the whole draw a line on the floor where it was before, where it was after. I don't know how much more angle I have now. I am getting a little bit of rubbing, but it's only tire. It's not. The rim hasn't touched the lower control arm. So I'm just gonna add a 3mm spacer and see if that does the trick. Just got a little bit of rubber rubbed off. So with the current setup, I managed to find a parking lot that I had permission. Certainly don't support drifting on the street, but most drifters learn in a parking lot. So I had a little fun doing that. I'll show you this quick little video.
That's not good.
At the end of that video, things get gross. And that's kind of where the car was last driven. I limped it home like that, and then quickly diagnosed that my coils were toast. I kind of knew my coils were toast. I was getting some ignition breakup on about 8,500 RPMs under load. I would like it just starting to sputter a little bit. I did take it to the dyno. I forgot to mention that. I took it to the dyno a year ago, roughly. Slightly disappointing numbers, but also if you look it up, like it's a Mustang dyno, so it's gonna read lower. Mustang dynos, depending on who you ask, are more realistic for what your real horsepower is. But I think a good healthy RX8 would be around the 160 mark, maybe 170 on a Mustang dyno. This was at 155, but it should be making that power at almost peak, or almost not like 8,500 to 9,000 RPM, and I was getting an ignition breakup. I also did no maintenance on the car. And had an oil change, oil filter, nothing. It was just a baseline of how I got it. So I'll take it back again soon, once I get things sorted in the spring, and just to see where it's at now. Hopefully it went up a little bit. That time when I drifted it, last time I drifted it, it's the only time I drifted it with its current suspension setup, its alignment, it's the welded rear diff, the diff bushings. Felt really comfortable. I felt like I was just kind of getting the hang of it. There was nothing crazy, like I was just doing big circles around the truck, but I was enjoying it. It was a lot of fun, and it was becoming more and more comfortable. It felt fairly predictable, and I'm excited to do a lot more of that. Unfortunately, that happened in, I want to say, October, and I brought it home because I, fried my coils, and next thing you know, it's winter again. So it's time to fix it up and have it ready for the spring. So this vent line right here used to go to right here where it's capped off. So what happens is when you overfill this, probably get a lot of sloshing around, running at high RPMs like I was, you're drawing a vacuum on this through the intake, you get oil sloshing up there, it sucks in. Also, if you don't use a funnel when you fill it, you can pour oil down the side, which then goes into that line and pours into the intake. Probably a combination of those things. I had a lot of oil in the intake. There's also a little noise chamber right here that I removed. That was full of oil, completely full. I also disconnected the fresh air duct, which is in here, and again, that's a noise thing as well. It just restricts the intake until a certain RPM, so that's not an issue anymore. So I added the catch can. That just vents off of here now, so any excess, it's not really a crankcase, but any excess pressure in oil or any slosh is just going to go to here, so that's no longer an issue. Some guys will run both lines to here. I don't see a reason to, so I just capped it off. I also have coils installed. I used smart coils. You can see them down there, a little better from over here. There's information on the forums about installing them. It's not all correct. I'll put a link to the thread that you should look at. However, if you look for my comments towards the end, the schematics given in the thread are not right, and that caused me a lot of hiccups. But they work great. They are the best coil. However, really not necessary for NA build. I'll probably go to boost, but that's a different story. So I replaced the coils with the smart coils. They're a Performance World brand. Every sign of a knockoff brand. They don't seem to be a knockoff coil, but they do ohm test between pins differently than my AEM smart coils that I have on the 818. So they're not the same coil, but we'll see how they perform. So I also installed a eBay header, which they're kind of crap when you get them. You definitely want to do a little port matching. I actually have two. I had ordered one, and then another one popped up locally that'll probably use that flange for possibly a turbo manifold, I'm not 100% sure the future of me, this car, and the engine. But I picked them both up, and there was quite a vast difference. And some of the ports were just really small. Like I had to open them up quite a bit. So that might be some of the reason that guys don't really get any performance advantage from running the aftermarket headers. I don't know. It's substantially lighter than the, like, crazy amount lighter than the OEM setup. It was cheap. I deleted the cat, which is another thing I was suspecting. This is a 2004, so the cat might have been clogged, and that might have been causing issues with making low power as well. Compression was good when I bought it, so I'm not suspecting a low compression issue. So I did an eBay mid-pipe, like the excess power one, and then I bought a used HKS high power single exit exhaust. Sounds great. Sounds a little ricey at certain RPMs, but then it just sings at high RPMs, and I love it. Also substantially lighter than the factory setup. Speaking of which, the factory seats are insanely heavy, in case you didn't know. That covers all the upgrades I had done on the car, with the exception of my new hydro. Pretty excited about this. I'm going to make another quick video separate of this one as to just everything I did to install that, to help anyone else installing a hydro on an RX8. Unfortunately, there's not a whole lot of information out there on RX8s and drifting. There's some obviously great RX8 drift builds. You got Kyle Mohan with his 3-rotor. You got Mad Mike had, his awesome 3-rotor. But that doesn't, like, how does a guy relate to that? Unfortunately for a lot of the die-hard RX8 guys, RX8s are cheap. They're not worth much, and they're going to be the next 240 of the drift world. I don't see how they won't be. It's such a cheap rear-wheel drive chassis. There's so much potential there in that chassis. I think we're just going to see more and more of it. Unfortunately, most of them are going to be swapped, but you can't blame them. The Renesis doesn't have a whole lot of juice, and there's not a great track record of turbocharging them. But we're going to see more and more of it. So my idea is to just put as much information out as I can as to the DIYers drift build, because let's face it, we don't all have $5,000 to spend on a Wisefab suspension setup, and we don't all need it. Not everyone is going for their Pro 2 license. Yeah, so that's pretty much catches you up on everything I've done with the car so far. The plan is to just throw it in storage, and as soon as the snow's gone and spring shows up, to drive it as much as possible. Learn to drift. Figure out my driving abilities. I did buy new wheels for it. I'm not sure what brand they are. Nothing special. 18x8s and a 35 offset, so they fill the wheel wells a little bit better. I bought some sticky Zestino tires, so that's why you'll see I just got the RX8, the OEM wheels in the back when I'm drifting, because I got sticky tires on my other rims. The thought being that this will be the backup track car, because most track days you have to book in advance, there's limited spots, and they don't cancel for weather. The 818 doesn't have a roof, so if in the future I have a track day booked, it rains, can't bring the 818, or the 818 is broken, then this should still handle pretty good. Although driving on the street with really sticky air compound tires in the back and a welded diff is it's cringeworthy. Don't recommend that. Probably also not great for the drive line. So we'll see what breaks first. Anyway, that's it for now. Stay tuned. I'm going to literally stop filming this and do the details on the hydro. So anyone waiting for that video, it should be up shortly after this. Until next time, peace.
2,000 years later.